I mean, my God.
You're getting
you guys
things wrong,
don't want to
Tara.
listen because you're hypocrites.
No, you're just getting the facts wrong time and
because
again.
you don't want to hear the truth about the fact that you are not willing to call
What did Donald Trump say about Somali's religion?
Andrew here with the Veil of Power. Watch a MAGA panelist tie himself in knots on CNN. Trump stood in the Oval Office and flat out called Abdul El-Sayed, a Muslim Senate candidate, a jihadist, not a sympathizer, a jihadist. And Jesse Arm's defense was to nitpick the wording while pretending Trump's long record of attacking Muslims and Somalis does not exist. Tara Setmayer called it what it is. Hypocrisy. When Cuomo-style consistency gets applied, they cannot take it. And Tim Scott running ads using El-Sayed's full name, Abdul Rahman Muhammad, and then claiming it has nothing to do with religion. Come on, let's get into it.
Tonight, Republicans are going all Kendrick Lamar on Democrats. To paraphrase, they're not like us. That blueprint is most evident in Michigan, where progressive candidate Abdul El-Sayed won the Democratic Senate primary. Republicans have attacked his religion, directly or indirectly, deployed ads using his full name, and some have suggested he is un-American and even a terrorist. President Trump joined the attacks today in the Oval Office. Despite not referencing El-Sayed by name, he did add a new label.
Well, the one thing is we have jihadists being elected all over the place. We have this, whether it's communism, jihadism. A friend of mine called up. He said, really, you should use the word jihadist because that's what's happening. When you look at the radicalism and the craziness of the candidates and the stupidity of what they're suggesting, people don't want to have radical lunatics involved in running our country, and that's what we have.
This weekend, President Trump posted an image online describing two very different Americas, one of Trump and his wife Melania, the other of El-Sayed and his wife. El-Sayed responded to this on Sunday.
What was your response when you saw that?
Yeah, he's right. One in which your overlords are two people who don't like each other but joint in the interest of making billions of dollars off of you, or two people who genuinely love each other, enjoyed some pancakes together, want to come together to build the kind of America where they can raise a family and know that that family is going to have the good things. So yes, you got two different visions of America. Donald Trump's vision is the one you're living in right now. Can you afford your gas? Can you afford your groceries? Do you believe when you look your kids in the eye that they're going to have a better future than you did?
All right, so that was El-Sayed's response. Now, if what the president was saying was too subtle for you, Nancy Mace, Republican member of Congress from South Carolina, tweeted over the weekend, quote, "Every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. We refuse to be silent." You're shaking your head back and forth.
That's ridiculous. Nancy Mace is irrelevant. She's on her way out of Congress while the Republican Party is purging its people who make anti-Muslim comments.
Whether it's the president?
Oh, well, he's 100% right about the fact that Abdul El-Sayed is a jihadist sympathizer, but I'll get to that. Give me 1 second. Okay, Nancy Mace is making gross comments about Muslims. It's terrible. It has no place in the Republican Party. Andy Ogles was just primaried and defeated, who made similar gross comments about Muslims over the years. Thomas Massie, who made gross comments about Jews in Israel, was just excised from the GOP. Meanwhile, what do you have in the Democratic Party? You do have people like Abdul El-Sayed, who, when he was asked about Islamist terror massacre that nearly unfolded in my hometown at a synagogue just down the street from where I grew up, his response was to tell his campaign that it was a risk for him to offer any condemnation whatsoever, and that it was really just the result of hurt people who hurt people, because Israel had done something in the Middle East, thousands of miles away, to this guy's family or something. That is absurd. That is offensive. And I can tell you personally that I know hundreds of Democrats in the Metro Detroit area who have never voted for a Republican in their life, who will this November, because Abdul El-Sayed is an Islamist sympathetic, communist adjacent, hardline extremist radical. And there's no place for him in American public life. And a lot of Democrats believe so as well. A lot of Haley Stevens voters believe so as well.
Words like adjacent and sympathizer are doing a lot of work there to try to smear a candidate with beliefs that he does not actually hold.
I am smearing a candidate 100%.
The point here is that, for example, President Trump describing him as a jihadist. There is nothing in his record that suggests he is a jihadist.
Excuse me. When the Iranian Supreme Leader was killed by the American military in a successful operation,
Abdul El-Sayed, an obvious dog whistle to religious prejudice.
No, it's a prejudice toward Islamism.
To bigots who don't want to elect a Muslim or an Arab.
Excuse me, you're not contending with the reality that he is out there defending the actions of religious extremists who carry out terrorism in his name. I just got done condemning stupid Republicans who are making stupid comments about Muslims. My boss is Muslim. I work at a leading public policy think tank in the American right. I am doing Donald Trump now. Donald Trump gets it right when he calls Abdul El-Sayed someone who is sympathetic to jihadists.
That was unconstitutional.
We are not talking about the Muslim ban. That was in 2017.
You got very animated. You're very upset about.
Trump didn't call him a somebody sympathetic to jihadists, Trump called him a jihadist. There's a difference.
These things that were
I
comments
sure
that were
am.
made. But you are not that upset when Donald Trump does it. I'm not understanding.
Well, you'll have to forgive me because Donald Trump didn't try to ram an explosive-laden truck into a synagogue with 140 preschoolers in it in my hometown. That was the guy who Abdul El-Sayed was dismissing.
But where is that smoke for Donald Trump?
What? I have it. I'll provide it. I'll give it to you.
You just did not. When he instituted a Muslim ban unconstitutionally.
That was in 2017. It's not the topic we're talking about.
It was one of the first things he did, but he still did it. Okay.
It wasn't a religious ban.
Yes,
it was. No, it wasn't.
Guys. We're going to do one at a time, else we're going to go to break here. So, Tara, you first.
Thank you. The Muslim ban, the whole countries, the attacks on Somalis and their religion, and all the Ilhan Omar. You can
when did Trump attack Somali religion?
Go ahead, Tara, finish.
I mean, my God.
You're
you guys don't want to listen because you're hypocrites.
No, you're just getting the facts wrong.
You try to overtalk me because you don't want to hear the truth about the fact that you are not willing to call
What did Donald Trump say about Somali's religion? What did Donald Trump say about Somali's religion?
10 seconds and we'll go around the table. Jesse, go ahead.
About him going after Somalis and Muslims.
I yield my time back to Tara to ask what Donald Trump said about Somali's religion.
Shutting up so I can actually get a sentence out. Like, I'm not going to give you credit for being quiet so I can finish. Go ahead. We'll go on.
All right.
Okay.
Since you can't seem to answer.
I want to look at it politically that Abdul does have to do some work with the Jewish voters that are in Michigan. We know that he has to do work with rural working class voters. We know that he has to do work with black voters. I think he's going to do that work. I hope Mallory McMurrow, who has talked about the anti-Semitism that her husband faced, who has talked about how the Temple Israel attack had such an impact on her, is going to be able to help facilitate those conversations. I hope he's able to come to some middle about this. I also want to point out his opponent, Mike Rogers, is running a lot of ads on fear, the idea that people will be scared of Abdul. And I think people are more tired than they are scared right now. I mean, this really is the environment for a Democrat, even a Democrat that I didn't support in the primary, that I think might not be as competitive as a Haley Stevens, I think could really ride a wave that is a lot of the economic angst that people are feeling.
But the fear is coming from the Jewish community in that state, who understand what it is he stands for and understand and have seen over and over and over again him defending, using as a surrogate, Hassan Piker. Like, they're aware of that. And even after all the conversations came forward, even after they aired all these clips about the awful things that Hassan Piker has said, not even years ago, but recently, and he will not condemn any of that.
I will say, I do think he needs to break his relationship with Hassan, because every day that he spends having to talk about Hassan's comments is another day he's not spending actually running his
But he should also have to be held to account for choosing to associate with him.
I want to say just one thing, because you brought up the Jewish community in Michigan, as did you. Tim Scott is not a member of the Jewish community in Michigan, who is repeatedly, and Democrat, Republican Senate ads, repeatedly using Abdul El-Sayed's full name, Abdul Rahman, et cetera, et cetera. And let's just how Tim Scott defended using the full name there.
Abdul Rahman Mohammed El-Sayed, the most radical Senate candidate in America.
You're using his full name in these attack ads, which has gotten some attention. Abdul Rahman Mohammed El-Sayed. He goes by Abdul El-Sayed. Are you trying to say, hint, hint to voters, he's Muslim?
Not at all. What we're saying what we're only saying to voters is a simple thing. He says he's the most dangerous candidate you can find. He's right. We should trust his word.
I like how this idiot Tim Scott just turns directly to the camera to say this.
Words, not ours.
But why not just use his name, Abdul El-Sayed, which he goes by?
Well, listen, I go by Timothy Eugene, and so I get called that all the time. Here's what I know with that question. It's about what he stands for.
I have never heard of Tim Scott referred to as Timothy Eugene in a campaign ad.
I mean, look, I don't know how he says that with a straight face, honestly. The idea that using Tim Scott's full name unabbreviated is equivalent to using Abdul El-Sayed's full name is just ludicrous. It is obviously, in El-Sayed's case, an appeal to anti-Muslim, anti-Arab sentiment. And I just wanted to pick up on something. I just want to pick up on something Yemisi said there, because she rightly talked about the fact that El-Sayed has some work to do. Yeah. Had Haley Stevens won that primary, she would also have had work to do, particularly with Arab Americans in a state that has the highest per capita population of Arab Americans in the country, who believe that the Biden administration disgraced itself on Gaza.
She would have way less work to do because she'd have all the moderates voting for her.
Purported concerns for human rights, all the while shoveling weapons to Mr. Netanyahu with which to kill 70,000
You guys are like very concerned
It always goes back to the Jews, every single time, which is a perfect example of like some of what you're talking about, like the coded language and whatnot. El-Sayed has brought up AIPAC and brings it up absolutely every single time he can because he wants to talk about the Jews. And the people that you're talking about that Haley Stevens
because they support the most right-wing government in Israel's history.
Oh my God, okay.
They're Jews.
Dude, chill. We understand that Ireland cares a lot about Palestine, but
because we don't
like here, all right? In Michigan, most people don't actually give a shit about Palestine.
Hang on, we're going to do this. 10 seconds around the table.
People in Michigan are actually scared of Abdul El-Sayed, not because of Israel or whatever. No one cares about Israel. He's going to rip away Obamacare. He's going to rip away private health insurance from the 66% of Americans who have it. They ran a campaign. Rashida Tlaib was attacking Haley Stevens for collecting support from General Mills and General Motors. Michiganders don't like the sound of that. Anti-business politics.
To the contrary, a lot of these claims are made to distract from what Al-Sayed is standing for on an economic basis. Can I finish, please? He stands for Medicare for All, which has polled well for years.
Which would eliminate private health insurance.
Just let him talk, and then we're going over here. So.
He stands for the reduction of money in politics, which people of all kinds of ideology agree with. And those kinds of appeals to improve people's economic lives is why he won the primary.
Last word on
that? Yeah, he won the primary by the skin of his teeth, despite the fact that he was supposed to lead by about 10 to 13 points, depending on the poll, because people realized what he stood for, and they rejected it, which is precisely why Democrats are saying privately, they are not going to do this on TV, that he's going to lose, which makes it even more difficult for the Democrats to take back the Senate. In fact, now Republicans might even pick up a seat.
All right, we have much more to discuss, Alexander.
Let's start with the word Donald Trump actually used, because the defenders spent the whole segment trying to soften it. Trump did not call Abdul El-Sayed someone sympathetic to extremists. He stood in the Oval Office and called him a jihadist, flat out. And there's nothing in El-Sayed's record that supports that. He is a doctor and a former public health official. Jihadist is not a description of anything he has done. It is a smear designed to make voters picture a terrorist when they hear a Muslim candidate's name. That is the function of the word, and Trump reached for it on purpose. Now watch Jesse Arm try to defend it. He spent a full minute condemning Republicans who make gross anti-Muslim comments. Nancy Mace, Andy Ogles, named and disowned. And then, in the same breath, he defended Trump, doing the exact same thing, but worse. That is the trick. You perform a little independence and throw a few of your own under the bus, and it buys credibility to defend the biggest offender of all. But it does not survive one question. If anti-Muslim bigotry has no place in the party, why does the president get a pass for the worst version of it? And that is the question Tara Setmayer forced onto the table. What did Donald Trump say about Somalis and their religion? She asked directly more than once, and nobody would answer, because the honest answer is a long documented record of attacks. The Muslim ban in 2017 ruled unconstitutional in its first form. Years of targeting Ilhan Omar and Somali Americans specifically, Arm's response was to change the subject to El-Sayed rather than answer for Trump. That is the tell. When someone will condemn the small fish by name but goes silent on the president, the principle was never real. Here is a deeper trick in the smear itself. They called El-Sayed an Islamist and a communist in the same breath. Those two things have nothing to do with each other. One is a religious label, the other economic. So one and they are close to opposites. So why staple them together? Because the goal was never accuracy. It was to attach as many frightening words to one man as possible until the specifics stop mattering and only the fear remains. Pile up enough loaded terms and you never have to prove a single one. Then there is the Tim Scott moment, almost a parody of the whole thing. He ran ads using El-Sayed's full name, Abdul Rahman Muhammad, over and over. Asked if that was a hint that he is Muslim, Scott said not at all. Then claimed it is just like people calling him Timothy John. Nobody has ever run a campaign ad calling Tim Scott Timothy John. The full name only gets deployed to make it sound foreign and frightening. Everyone watching understood what that ad was doing, including the man who made it. And here is the hypocrisy that ties the segment in a knot. These are the same people who scream, "What about Biden?" at every turn. But when the subject turned to Biden's record on Gaza, on arming the Netanyahu government, they went quiet. Because on that issue, Biden did what they wanted. And do not miss the funniest tell of all. Jesse Arm attacked El-Sayed by warning he would rip away Obamacare, a conservative suddenly posing as the great defender of the program his own party spent 15 years trying to kill. They will contradict any prior position, say whatever the moment requires, as long as it damages the target in front of them. Consistency is not even a consideration. So strip away the loaded words, and here is what is left. A qualified Muslim candidate got called a jihadist by the president, an Islamist and a communist by his surrogates, and had his full name weaponized in attack ads. All while the people doing it insisted none of it was about religion. It is always about making someone the other. That is the strategy, because they have nothing else to offer. If this broke it down, drop a comment and subscribe. Andrew out. Let's go.